On a chilly Monday morning, the city was still rubbing the sleep from its eyes. Streetlights blinked out one by one as a pale, watery sun pushed through the gray clouds inside a small corner diner. The air was warm with the smell of toasted bread, sizzling eggs, and freshly brewed coffee. Forks clinked softly against plates. A quiet radio hummed an old song, and tired workers hunched over their first meal of the day. Near the fogged-up window, at a cracked vinyl booth, sat a man in a faded jacket, hands wrapped around a chipped coffee mug. His name was Alex, a single dad trying to stretch one simple breakfast a little further than his wallet allowed. Alex had the kind of face life carves slowly, gentle-eyed, set in tired shadows. A jaw that stayed tense from years of holding things together alone. His clothes were clean, but worn. The kind of worn that came from choosing his son's needs over his own again and again. Outside, morning traffic rumbled awake, but inside the diner, Alex focused on the single plate before him, a modest breakfast he planned to split later with his little beau before dropping him at school. As he lifted his fork, movement near the entrance caught his eye. A woman stepped inside, shivering slightly as the warm air bet her cold skin. Her hair clung to her cheeks in tangled strands, and her coat, to sizes too big, hung off her like a damp blanket. She hesitated near the doorway, one hand clutching her stomach as though pain lived there. Customers glanced at her, then looked away quickly. A few whispered behind menus. Someone shook their head. The waiter stiffened, as if unsure whether to approach or eject her. The woman's eyes scanned the diner, not with expectation, but with the quiet desperation of someone who had learned not to hope too loudly. She stepped toward the counter, her voice barely above a breath. "Ma'am, I haven't eaten since yesterday. Could I maybe have some leftover bread?" Her voice trembled, not from fear. Hunger had its own kind of shake, and in that moment, Alex's heart sank. He knew that kind of empty. He knew it too well. The waiters glanced at the poor woman, then at the manager standing near the kitchen door. His arms were crossed, his expression hard enough to chill the warm diner air. "No free food," he said sharply, not even bothering to step closer. "We're not running a charity here." The woman flinched as if the words themselves had weight. She nodded quickly, backing away, her hands twisting into the sleeves of her oversized coat. Hunger made her movements slow, unsteady. A young couple at a nearby booth snickered. "Look at her coat," the girl whispered. "Probably hasn't bathed in days." Her boyfriend smirked. "Bet she's just pretending to get free stuff." The woman heard it, her shoulders curled inward, as though she were trying to fold herself small enough to disappear. Her eyes glistened, but she blinked rapidly, refusing to let the tears fall. Alex's fork froze halfway to his mouth. The manager stepped closer to the woman now, his shoes clicking sharply on the linoleum floor. "Ma'am, you need to leave if you're not buying anything." She swallowed hard. "Please, just a piece of bread. Anything." "Out," he repeated, louder this time. Her breath caught. She turned toward the door, her steps slow, like each one hurt. Her hunger wasn't just physical, it was the kind that stripped away dignity one layer at a time. People watched, but no one moved. The bell above the diner door jingled faintly as she reached for it. Her hand shaking, Alex felt something tighten inside him, a quiet breaking. He'd known desperation before: late night shifts, skip meals, bills that didn't care how hard he worked. He remembered the days when kindness had felt like a luxury the world couldn't afford. And then, almost instinctively, he stood. "If this story touches your heart," the narrator would whisper later, "please like, comment, and share." Alex stepped away from his booth, the small plate of breakfast still warm in his hands. The woman had almost reached the door when his voice, soft but steady, crossed the space between them. "Ma'am, wait." She turned slowly, her eyes, tired and rimmed with thread, lifted to meet his. For a moment, she looked confused. People didn't usually stop her, and when they did, it wasn't to help. Alex walked toward her, each step careful, as though he didn't want to startle someone already so fragile. The diner grew strangely quiet. Even the radio seemed to lower itself into a hush. He extended the plate toward her. Eggs, toast, a small portion of fruit, simple, but warm, real, immediate. "You can have mine," he said. His voice carried a gentle firmness, the kind that came from countless sacrifices made without witnesses. The woman's breath trembled. Her hands hovered in the air before she finally accepted the plate, fingers brushing his. They were cold, ice cold. "You "You're giving me your food," she whispered, barely able to believe it. Alex nodded. "Please, eat." She looked down at the meal as though it were something sacred. Then a single tear slid down her cheek, carving a clean line through the dirt on her skin. The manager's cough. "Sir, that plate wasn't paid for yet." Alex's head turned. His eyes were calm, but resolute. "I'll pay for it now." But before the tension could swell again, a faint shift in the room pulled every gaze to the window. Outside, two well-dressed men in suits were stepping out of a black car, scanning the diner with purpose. They carried folders, sleek briefcases, an aura of intention. They paused when they spotted the woman through the glass. She froze. The fork slipped from her fingers and clattered against the plate. "What would you do in this situation?" the narrator would later ask. Comment below. The door chimed as the suited men entered, their polished shoes clicking against the floor. "Mum," the taller one said gently, "we've been looking for you." Her breath caught. Alex watched, stunned. The woman's trembling hand tightened around the edge of the plate. For a moment, she looked ready to run. Survival habits don't fade easily, but the men in suits approached with a gentleness that softened the air around them. "Please don't be afraid," the shorter one said, lowering his voice. "We're your legal team. We've been searching for you for weeks." A ripple of murmurs swept across the diner. Even the manager, who had moments earlier demanded she leave, stood frozen. Alex stepped slightly closer to her, as if to shield her from whatever might come next. The taller lawyer opened the folder, the papers crisp and spotless compared to the worn world she carried on her shoulders. "Ma'am, your late brother's estate has finally been resolved. You're the sole beneficiary." Her lips parted, but no sound came out. The lawyer continued softly. "We needed your signature to release everything. A house, savings, investments. It's all yours." Her knees buckled. Alex instinctively reached out, steadying her with a careful hand. She looked up at him with eyes overflowing not just with shock, but with something deeper. Gratitude, relief, a sense of being seen. One of the attorneys cleared his throat. "And we'd also like to acknowledge the gentleman who helped her." He turned to Alex. "She's mentioned someone with kindness before. We didn't know she'd find him here." Alex blinked, stunned. He hadn't expected anything. He never did. Helping her was just the right thing, the human thing. Something hunger had taught him long ago. The manager, suddenly pale, shuffled backward. The earlier arrogance melted into awkward silence. The woman clutched the warm plate closer, tears streaking her cheeks. "Sir, you gave me food before anyone else even looked at me." Her voice wavered. "I won't forget that." The lawyer stepped forward. "We'd like to arrange some immediate support for her and for you. If you're willing to assist as a witness to her condition this morning, compensation will be provided." Alex's eyes widened slightly, but he nodded, not out of expectation, but out of the same quiet kindness that had made him stand earlier. Around them, the diner softened, whispers fading into thoughtful silence. People shifted uncomfortably, guilt warming their faces. A few looked down, ashamed of their earlier judgment. The poor woman straightened slightly. Dignity, something she had been forced to drop piece by piece, slowly returned to her posture. She held Alex's gaze. "Thank you," she whispered. "You changed my morning, and maybe my whole life." And outside, the gray clouds parted, just enough to let sunlight spill through the window like a blessing neither of them expected. Sometimes, life changes not with grand gestures, but with a single plate of warm food offered at the right moment. In a world where people often look away from struggle and pretend not to see hunger, Alex chose to stop, to notice, to care. And that simple act of kindness echoed far beyond the walls of the small diner. The poor woman, once ignored and pushed aside, found not just her inheritance that day, but her dignity. And Alex, a single father carrying his own quiet battles, was reminded that compassion as a way of circling back when least expected. Because kindness, no matter how small, is never wasted. It always finds its way home. If this story touched your heart, please take a moment to like, comment, and share it with someone who believes in kindness. Tell us in the comments below, what would you have done in this situation? And don't forget to subscribe to Acts of Kindness for more stories that warm the heart, lift the spirit, and restore faith in humanity.